You know, when people say, I'm going to clean up my diet, no one knows what that means. Like, no one knows what they're going to eat or what they're saying no to, but like, it sounds good. And then they get healthy, you know, but it's just the intention. It's about having that intention of I'm going to be as healthy as possible. I'm going to take the healthy choices. Maybe it's because we start listening more to the more constructive part of our brain. I like to look at it like we have this constructive reasoning part of the brain, and then we have the destructive childish brain. And siding with the constructive reasoning brain is maybe the way to go when it comes to health and longevity. Or maybe the fact that you are able to choose yourself which brain to follow is in and of itself a healing power. Or maybe it's a process of becoming more conscious. And once you do become more conscious, because you had to become conscious in the first place to make the claim that you are now healthy and you're on a clean eating diet or whatever, that means you have become conscious. It means you have taken accountability for your life, and not just a momentary accountability, meaning you made a decision, but no, you are taking continuous accountability, because there will be times when you have to say no. There will be times when you have to reaffirm the direction that you've chosen for yourself if you've chosen to be healthy or something. You will be tested again and again. But what that means, if you have that free will, if you have that sense of continuous accountability, it must mean that you have also become more conscious in the process. And when you are conscious, maybe something happens, you know, maybe that consciousness comes into your body and it heals you for you. So you're out here on the surface doing all these things. You're eating healthy, you're changing your diet, you're going to the gym, you're doing all these things that you think you're supposed to, and you believe they work. But what is actually working is the fact that consciousness has entered your awareness and your body to a higher extent. And that is what is healing you. Now, what do you do about that? And how do you prevent yourself from, losing yourself in this? Because if everything just comes down to belief and intention and placebo, essentially, then how do you control that? Because the moment you know it's no longer working, right? The moment you know that something is just a placebo, the placebo loses its effect. So how can you continue to reap the benefits of the placebo while being aware of the mechanics behind the placebo? Now, that's an interesting question. And maybe, again, if it comes down to consciousness, we don't have to speculate about that, because all you have to then do is to remain conscious and keep doing your best, right? Even though that best might be totally meaningless, but your best changes. Sometimes your best will be to indulge in so-called unhealthy desires. Sometimes your best will be to go on a whole foods diet. Sometimes your best will be moderation between the two. Sometimes your best will be trying to figure out what is the optimal human diet to eat. So your best could be so many different things, but if you're just doing your best, and you have that feeling that you're doing your best, it must mean that you're also conscious. No pushing yourself to the limit, pushing yourself to the point of failure, doing progressive overload in your mental work, in your physical work, training your discipline, your willpower, gradually increasing on all these internal metrics requires you to be conscious in the first place. So if you're doing that, you're probably conscious. And if you are conscious, you're doing the right things. You're doing the best you can. And the placebo is going to work in your favor. In fact, you are the placebo, right? Someone said that. Was it Joe Dispenza who said you are the placebo? Yes, At the core, everything is just the same one thing, right? It's what it seems like. Meditation definitely gives you this impression that there's way more to life than the mind and the thoughts and the concepts. And when you enter that state, life just seems so simple, man. Like it's, I really just want you to experience this. Just there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to figure out. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing to achieve. There's nothing you need to do to feel better. And when you are in that state of meditation, it really seems like your body is healing to the best of its ability. Maybe that is why we do feel that deep sense of relaxation once we are meditating. Maybe it's because our mind knows that this is, the regeneration of the body is at 100% right now. There's nothing you could do right now, so it quiets down. When it comes to, health, it could be something to do with that. You're removing the tension from the mind when you are meditating. And you go into this natural state of being. And it's so much bigger than all your worries and all your problems and all, these things that you've been taught, and it's protected, it's forever a protected thing, We will never be able to commercialize it or conceptualize it or destroy it or rebrand it or put it behind a paywall. It's never gonna go anywhere. We can't hide it. It's always gonna be here, and it's the most powerful thing we can experience as human beings. This state of meditation, this state where the mind just quiets down. I don't know, a lot of people experience it in different ways, and people go through, go to very, high lengths to just experience it. People go on I know a guy who goes on road trips with his bicycle, and I asked, like, why do you do that? Why do you, travel across different countries on your bike all alone? And that must be hard. You're going up all these hills, you're deteriorating your body in the process. Why do you do all that? And he says, it just makes me relax, And I ask, is it because it makes your mind shut up? It quiets the mind. He says, yes, that's exactly right. So people do a lot of crazy shit just to quiet down the mind. And it is wonderful, and you can experience it in a workout. You can experience it on a run or on a bike. But it's not this special thing that you can only access when you earn your way for it. You don't have to earn your freedom. I know that most human beings are conditioned to believe that all good things must be earned, and that the runner's high, or it's like, yes, after you run 15 kilometers, then you experience that high, and you've really like ran through thorn bushes just to get there, and then you bask in that freedom for a couple of minutes, and then it's back to the grind. No, that it's the other way around. That state of freedom, of total peace and liberation, is your natural state. You're supposed to be in that the majority of time, and then be in the mind very occasionally and very strategically, meaning when you decide to be in the mind, when you think to yourself, okay, I need to think about something. When was the last time you sat down and said to yourself, I will now think about something for the next 20 minutes? People don't do that. Everything is just running on compulsive tendencies. However, the natural state can be accessed through just sitting quietly and just observing, just looking at the trees, just looking around, just being in the present moment. You don't have to go through any difficulties physically or emotionally or mentally to experience this. It's right here, and it's your natural state, meaning that you owe it to yourself to be in this state the majority of time. You have to know yourself as that state, as that awareness, rather than the person that comes and goes and the compulsive characters that you form throughout your years. And you have the different dynamics inside of you. You have the son, and you have the friend, and the co-worker, and the boss, and the guy at the grocery shop. You have all these different characters inside of you, but none of those are you. You are that awareness behind that, and you can tap directly into it, and you can be that directly, making you so much more peaceful, so much more powerful. And then once you feel that, you will have a natural want to go into the world, to engage in the world, to talk to other people, and it's going to come from a much better place. And then you can say to yourself, I'm going to be a nice, loving person today, or whatever. Then you can create a character for yourself, and you can be that for a while. But that gets old really quick, and then you go back to being your awareness. But everything has to happen from your choosing. And it can only really happen if you focus on being the awareness first. So yeah, you don't have to go through difficulty. It's enough to just look out the window, and you can be that awesome version of yourself. And with that, you're going to heal your body in the process. You're going to feel like you're doing the best in life. You're going to progress on all metrics in life. And you will definitely feel like you're getting the most out of every day.